Greetings, everyone. I'm Dr. Mary Ann Mercer, and welcome to my Positive Life Answers podcast. I'm your podcast host and self-improvement expert, Dr. Mary Ann Mercer, and you can call me Dr. Mary. And today we're going to talk about the power of work ethic, an extremely important success habit that Dr. Michael Mercer will talk to us about today. So can barely wait to get started, so join us now. We're waiting for you. Now let's get started. Today we have Dr. Michael Mercer on this Positive Life Answers podcast. Dr. Mike has been on some recent episodes, and he's been talking about his new book called Success Habits Made Easy, Proven Actions to Make You a Superstar in Your Personal Life and Career. The last couple episodes we've been talking about Optimism Month, and then one before that was on one of his success habits that he explained and also shared his story, his personal story, about the success habit of persistence. So today, very importantly, we're going to talk about what makes people successful, or what other people call lucky, and that is the really important success habit of work ethic. Work ethic is really important. Dr. Mike, welcome to Positive Life Answers.
Hey, Dr. Mary, hi. Delighted to be back with you again. Looking forward to this, helping you and helping your audience.
Fabulous, Dr. Mercer. I should say Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike is my co-author of Spontaneous Optimism. And also remember, March is Optimism Month. So last week's episode is really important to give it a listen to so you can practice becoming more and more optimistic with easy tips that you use every single week of Optimism Month. So we talked about persistence, and today we're going to talk about work ethic. Dr. Mike, you have a quote in the beginning of this chapter I love, and it says, "Even if you're on the right track, you'll just get run over if all you do is sit there." I love that. Isn't that summarize it all?
Yep.
People think successful people are so-called lucky. And there was even a book a long time ago written about what we call the luck factor. But it's not about luck, it's about persistence and work ethic. And you beautifully displayed that in that episode on persistence. So if you haven't gotten a listen to it, take a listen to it now on the habit of persistence. It's short, sweet, to the point, and has a very moving story that Dr. Mike shared with us. So let's get started about work ethic. So how do you define work ethic, Dr. Mike?
Yeah, work ethic is so important. It's ultra important. If you want to achieve anything in your personal life or your career, you got to have a good work ethic.
Absolutely.
So if you want to get ahead, some of the things you need to do is demonstrate a good work ethic. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Somebody who shows a good work ethic craves to accomplish wonderful achievements.
Okay.
Also realizes they must invest their own time and effort to make achievements. Also, they want to feel wonderful plus accomplished, and they aim to earn what their heart's desires.
You know, and your success habits really have a personal story to it, which I love, because everybody really learns from personal stories. And you shared that in the episode on persistence. So you have a story, Dr. Mike, about how you learned about work ethic and how that habit I think you said the age of 5 years old. Can you share that story with the listeners?
Yes, I think this story kind of illustrates my work ethic and illustrates work ethic for everybody who wants to develop a better work ethic.
Okay.
You probably remember when you were a little kid, kids like to have similar things. For example, if there's a certain type of clothing that was popular, a lot of kids wanted it, or if there was a certain activity people wanted, they liked doing that. Well, when I was about 5 years old, my sister was a few years older than me. At that time, the little girls, grammar school girls, the most popular item of clothing was a soft red sweater. And I'm not sure if it was cashmere or mohair or something, but it was a soft red sweater. And one girl after the other who was in early grammar school had a soft red sweater. Well, my sister, a few years older than me, she wanted to be like the other girls, and she wanted to get this beautiful soft red sweater for herself. She wanted to get one. So she one day she walked up to my father and said, "Dad, I'd like a soft red sweater. Can I get a soft red sweater?" And my father said to her, I thought he was going to say, "Yeah, I'll buy it for you." Instead he said, "Yeah, you can get a soft red sweater. Go out and earn the money and buy it." And she looked crushed. And for approximately 59 seconds, maybe 58, I thought that's the most horrible, disgusting answer my father could give. Then suddenly, after about 59 seconds, it dawned on me, oh, I understand it. if I want something, I have to work for it.
What a concept.
Yeah. So my sister went and she got jobs babysitting for little kids in the neighborhood.
Oh.
And well, there I was 5 years old. There's not much a 5-year-old kid can do, but I figured it out. I grabbed a broom, and there was a lot of leaves falling down. It was the fall. A lot of leaves falling down in my neighborhood. And I walked door to door, and I said, I have a broom. I'll sweep up the leaves on your lawn and your sidewalk. And I forgot, whatever it is, I said, pay me $1 or something. Came back that evening with about $5 bills stuffed in my pocket. And I was so excited. And I kept doing things like that. I'd go do that. And then when it became winter, this was Chicago, so there was a lot of snow, I would go door to door with this snow shovel, my parents' snow shovel. I would walk door to door and say, if you want me to shovel your sidewalk or anything, I'll do that, just pay me whatever it was, $1 or something. Lo and behold, every day I went door to door saying, I'll shovel for you.
Wow.
I would come back with a pocket full of dollar bills. So I thought that was great. And then on top of that, some of the neighbors who had me either sweep leaves or shovel snow, they got other ideas for me. Yeah, it was fantastic. Some of the neighbors had figured out things for me to do. For example, a popular thing would be they'd have me go in their basement with a mop and mop their basement floor and dry it. I did that a lot, made a lot of dollar bills doing that. Some of them had me do other things around their house, like pick up garbage that was laying around or things that would fly across their lawn.
Great
garbage
stories.
or something.
My gosh.
So I did all sorts of things, and it was just great. I'd come back with a pocket full of dollar bills every time I did that.
And importantly, it sounds like it helped you gain confidence in your own self and that you were proud of your accomplishments.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yeah. And what happened then is that I was able to use some of those dollar bills. I'm good at saving money. But I used some of those dollar bills to like buy a toy I wanted or buy something that I wanted. So it was just great doing that. And I learned at 5 years old, having a good work ethic, I can get what I want.
That's awesome. And fast forwarding to your adult life, you have another story about yourself and how you learned about having a good work ethic helped you. Can you share that story with us now, Dr. Mike?
Yeah, listen to this. I was working at a world famous, right after I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree, I was working at a world famous psychoanalytic hospital. And one day I was working evening shift, 4 p.m. till midnight. And I was driving to work and I was at a stoplight. And lo and behold, a school bus rammed into the back of my car.
Oh my gosh.
Really hard. I was in shock. In fact, I remember a policeman walked up to the side of my car, knocked on the window, said to me, "Sir, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was in such shock that I looked at him, didn't say a word, and looked away. That's how shocked I was. All of a sudden, how did I get out of being shocked? I said to myself, OMG, oh my gosh, I have a work shift coming up. I don't want to be late for work.
Oh, wow.
So I quickly got on my phone, the policeman staring at me, got on my phone, called my boss at the hospital, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a bit late for work. I'll get there as soon as I can. She said, what happened? What happened? And I said, well, a school bus hit my car. And she said real loudly and nicely, Michael, you shouldn't be calling me. A school bus hit your car. You should go to the nearest emergency room and get checked out. Well, I didn't do that. I figured I was okay enough. I drove to work, and lo and behold, after this big accident, I worked my work shift coming up. It was important for me to show up there. I know it was an extreme accident, a school bus hitting the back of your car, but I wanted to work, so I showed up for work that day, and I put in a full day's work.
And also, because of your work ethic at this famous treatment facility, not only your coworkers, but the leaders of those units took a liking to you because they kind of recognized what you were doing. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it was just great. This was a world famous psychoanalytic hospital, not psychiatric, but psychoanalytic. It's probably the best in the whole world.
Right.
It's a place called Chestnut Lodge Sanatorium in Maryland, and it had all the patients there. They got barely any drugs at all. Instead, they were given 4 times a week psychoanalysis by some of the most famous psychoanalysts in the whole world.
In the world, yes.
Yeah, and I worked on the most disturbed ward. It was also the most disturbed, most violent ward, and also I thought the most exciting ward. I tried working on all the wards as a psychiatric aide. So I wasn't doing psychotherapy. Instead, I was helping and working with the patients on the ward and working with my fellow staff members. And I just loved working there. And it was kind of interesting because I could have gotten a job. Some of the people I graduated college with said, "Oh, Mike, why don't you get a job at the regular psychiatric hospital in the city?" And let's say I was getting paid, I forgot what it was. Let's say I was getting paid $5 an hour. They said, "Mike, at the regular psychiatric hospital in the city, instead of getting $5 an hour like you do at this world-famous psychoanalytic hospital, you'll get paid $10 an hour, twice as much. Well, I wanted to go to graduate school and I needed money for that, so twice as much money. That sounded great, but I refused to do that. Why? Because by working at a world-famous hospital with world-famous staff members there, that was a whole lot more important than making twice as much money.
Exactly. That's important. And kind of putting off the impulse control of wanting to earn a lot of money, you saw the value in the experience and persisted that way.
Yes.
And that's a good lesson for the listeners.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's best to think about how is this going to affect my life and my career the rest of my life, versus just earning a few extra dollars in a cookie cutter treatment program.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And it was so important for me to do that. It was just wonderful. This was such a famous psychoanalytic hospital.
Actually, they made movies about it, right?
Yeah. There were 2 movies made about it. One is called I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, written by a patient who was a patient on the ward where I worked.
Yeah.
Another movie is called Lilith, starring Warren Beatty and Gene Seaborg, which was written, and it's about somebody who worked on the ward I worked. So lo and behold, there are 2 movies related to the ward I worked on. And I want to tell the listeners something.
Yeah.
I wrote 2 movie screenplays, and one of them is about fictional movies in a sense.
Inspired by,
yeah. So I wrote one. So that'll be the third, when I sell the screenplay and it's produced into a movie, that'll be the 3rd movie written about and produced by somebody connected to that same psychiatric ward where I worked on. And also, I thought the most exciting ward in the whole hospital.
And as my husband, Dr. Mike, I had the privilege of reading the screenplay, and oh my gosh, it is so incredible. It goes even further than Lilith and Never Promised You a Rose Gardens. We're hoping that you'll see this in the movies in the near future. But back to the point here is that Dr. Mike could have earned twice as much money. He never wanted to base his career in life on money. He wanted to base it on experience, and it influenced your career. It influenced the success habits that you started to write about, and then created this new book, Success Habits Made Easy. So make sure we listen up and hear your secrets to that, Dr. Mike.
And let me mention one other thing about it. This is years later when I tell people I worked at Chestnut Lodge Sanatorium, the most famous psychoanalytic hospital in the whole world. Years later, I still get, oh my God, that is so special. Whereas the people who worked at the regular psychiatric hospital, I really doubt anybody gives a darn that they work there. And I doubt they took much from it. So I feel good. It's helped me in my career. When I've said that, as I was going through graduate school and after that, it's like, oh my gosh, you worked there? That is so famous.
Was it that thought, Dr. Mike, that kept you going, even though, you, as a young student, and I've been through that too, when I was in grad school, you're struggling financially, you're trying to make ends meet, you're working a long shifts in time. What kept you going?
I wanted to do well in my career. One of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to earn my PhD in clinical psychology and also business psychology. Working at a world-famous psychoanalytic hospital would help me get into and do well as a clinical psychologist. Real importantly, there are 12 wards at the hospital, about 120 patients altogether. And I worked on what was, everyone knew was the most extreme, most violent ward. And I thought it was the most exciting ward to work on. I remember my first day, there were all sorts of bizarre things went on. And the assistant head nurse said to me, Mike, after working here for a month, nothing bothers you. and you know what? That was true. It was so extreme. But I had a wonderful experience. It was very powerful. It helped me develop a reputation so I could get into the type of work and degrees that I wanted to get.
These are great stories, and Dr. Mike, I'm just going to read to you to the listeners this important point that you made after you disclosed these stories in your book, and you said, my good work ethic and vision for my future was vastly more important than earning twice as much money in the present moment. You had that long-term vision. And in future episodes, a couple episodes from now, Dr. Mike's going to talk about vision, but we wanted to talk about the persistence and work ethic. But I want the listeners to understand that work ethic, persistence is what's going to manifest your vision. Because your vision is good as gold, but if it's just sitting there on a piece of paper, it's not going to manifest. So we thought we'd start off this series on Dr. Mike's Success Habits Made Easy book with some important points, persistence and work ethic. And that's what's going to give you a basis for your success habits.
Absolutely. When I got into the corporate world, there was somebody else. He was a student when I was a PhD student. At our PhD graduation, we stood next to each other. At the graduation, we were alphabetically one name after the other. And he and I both went into business psychology, what's called industrial organizational psychology. And we kind of worked our first jobs after earning our PhDs. We worked pretty close to each other near downtown Chicago.
Okay.
And we'd get together after work to go have a drink or take a walk or get a cup of coffee or something. And he and I talked about how out of all the PhD students who graduated in our graduation, the two of us were earning less than any of the other ones. And one day I said to him, this is kind of embarrassing. You and I earn less than the other people who were in the PhD the same year we did. And he said, but Mike, you and I both are getting fantastic work experiences, which will take us really far. The other ones, they might be earning more, but they're not getting work experiences as exciting, as valuable, and as varied as we're getting. And lo and behold, he became the executive vice president, the third highest person in a major international company that's super, ultra, extremely famous. I'm sure all the audience members have heard the name of the company. And I've done well in my career. So we may have been paid less, but we stuck with it because we had great experiences.
Let's summarize the basis of this whole episode today. These are great stories that really illustrate the point. Dr. Mike, you have a great quote that kind of ties up this section of our time together. Can you share that with the listeners?
Yes, this quote is great. It's from William Ward. Here's what William Ward said. Enthusiasm and persistence can make an average person superior. Indifference and lethargy can make a superior person average. So it's important to have enthusiasm and persistence and a great work ethic. That takes even an average person, makes you wonderful.
I mean, you hear these stories all the time where these incredibly smart people who have all this talent aren't successful. But then you hear about these stories about an average person who use these kind of success habits and they become wildly successful. It's amazing. And this is the reason why this habit of work ethic and our previous episode on persistence. So I want to summarize that a person with a good work ethic craves to accomplish something wonderful in their lives. They realize they must invest some time and effort. They want to feel wonderful and accomplished. And they want to earn their heart's desires and actually take actions to get what they want in their life. And yes, what we're saying is it's great to have a positive attitude. It's great to have a vision. You've got to do the work. And that might be a buzzkill for some people, but we're not here to, not tell you the truth about success in your lives. And they're not that hard to do, right, Dr. Mike? And that's the whole concept behind Success Habits Made Easy. There's work involved, but it's easy.
Yeah. I was talking recently to somebody. He wanted to go into, is kind of a younger person in early 20s, and he wanted to go into a certain career. And he was all enthused about it. At the job he had, he worked really, really hard. It was a physical labor job. The job that he wanted to train for required more, you might say, brain power. Not just physical work, but brain power. And so I remember talking with him and I said, you got to study. And he said, I don't like studying. In school, I didn't like studying and so on. I said, well, if you want to get into that career, you've got to study and learn things. It's very, very important. And you have to pass the tests along the way. He continued working at a hard labor, physical labor job. He did very well there. But in his training program, he failed. And I said, what's going on? You wanted to go into that career? He said, I didn't want to study. I said, but you got to learn those things. He said, well, people will live. It'll be okay. I said, they're not going to accept that. You got to plug away. So you have the goal you want to get into a certain type of work or business or career, and you got to study. You have to be qualified for it. So plug in. It could be physical work. It could be mental work. But do the work that's needed to demonstrate a good work ethic and get what you want in your life.
And as we move on in this podcast episode, you had some questions to help the readers in your book, and also some questions that the listeners can start thinking about. And we're not going to disclose all of them right now, but what are your top 2 or 3 questions that a person should ask themselves in order to link in that persistence that we talked about last time and work ethic today?
Yeah. Here's some questions. It's in the book where you have a nice space you can fill it out right in the book if you get the book Success Habits Made Easy. Let me ask you a question. Kind of think about it now. If you get the book, you can work on them, write the answers in the book. One question: what are 1 or 2 real life stories that show the size and strength of your work ethic?
Okay.
Your work ethic. What are one or two real life stories that show the size and strength of your work ethic? I gave the story. I gave the true story about a school bus hit my car when I was going to work, and for me, I felt it was more important for me to get to work than to feel dazed and confused and maybe go to an emergency room. And lo and behold, I lived. So what are one or two, think about it for all the people listening. Say to yourself now, what are one or two stories that illustrate your work ethic?
Great.
Or when my sister wanted something, and I learned about, I go work if I want to buy something. Wow, that really taught me a lot. What are some of the stories in your real life stories that illustrate your work ethic or lack of work ethic?
And what other questions you have that people can kind of see where they're at in their lives?
Okay, when you think of your real life stories about your own work ethic, what does the story show about the size and strength of your work ethic?
So that's like question 2. What's
Question
your
2,
story and your strength, you said?
Yeah, and question 3, what were some of the reasons you put yourself into those situations?
Ooh.
You didn't have to do it. You had a great work ethic, and that's why you got yourself into those situations.
And I love this. We have a few more questions, but I'm going to just focus on one more here. And I like question number 4. Specifically, what can you do today or in the next week to create a new story that proudly illustrates your work ethic? I'm really big on stories that people tell themselves and stories that they live by that kind of illustrates what their actions are in the day. So I always talk about change your story, change your life. So this is really important, and we'll leave the listeners with this, is to pause and reflect on what your story is.
Yeah, what can you do today or within 1 week, sometime real quick, to create a new story that illustrates very proudly your work ethic? The reason I say I recommend focus on today, don't keep putting it off. So some people will hear this or read in the book and they'll say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next week, I'll do it next weekend. No, do it now. Do it now. Good work ethic, do it now.
Great. These are great questions to ask yourself. And if you're driving, think about it when you get home or in a safe place when you sit down. Just pull out your journal and write some notes on it if you don't have the book yet. In order to get the copy of Success Habits Made Easy, you can go to Amazon and Barnes & Noble or your other favorite bookstore platform. The ebook is available now. The paperback is out March 17th, which is right along in line with this episode. So Dr. Mike, what is one more pearl of wisdom you can share about work ethic? You have done work with lots of companies in assessing job applicants, and you have a number of tests, and one of them talks about and assesses work ethic. What a generally overview. What have you found with people who are successful, or what companies want to benchmark and clone about work ethic?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I've developed 3 pre-employment tests that lots and lots of companies use to evaluate job applicants. And one of the things I do when a company wants to evaluate job applicants is I find some people in their company in the same job who are superstars, meaning superstars, highly productive and low turnover. Highly productive and low turnover. In other words, the type of employee the company would like to metaphorically clone and attest to. And I have the superstars take my test, and I find out how they score. And one of the things I find over and over again, and then when they have applicants come in, they give the applicants the test. If the applicant gets the same or similar scores to the superstars, that's somebody I always tell them they should seriously consider. Some of the ingredients of a superstar I find over and over and over again. Superstars score high on my work motivation scale. They like working hard, they like plugging away, they have a good work ethic. They show up for work and aim to put in more than a day's pay for their day's wages. So that's crucial. The other thing is superstars are not impulsive. They think before they do things. They say to themselves, okay, what do I need to do now in order to move ahead today in my work, this week, this month, or in my career? So they're not impulsive. They have a great work ethic, and they're not impulsive, and so they plan ahead what they're going to do.
It's great. I mean, we were sharing that, so those that are listening that are looking to grow and develop their career, this is an important habit that lots of companies like to look at. Are you going to show up? Are you going to be serious in doing your job? And so on. So it's really important to share that. And also for other listeners, this is helpful for your own personal life too, whether it's a goal for your work and career or for your personal life, and that could just be trying to develop better health habits. or exercising. Persistence and being very on target with your work ethic is what's going to really help you land that goal. So thank you, Dr. Mike. I can't wait to have you back next time because there's two really important habits coming up, and that has to do with winning with people in your life, personally or professionally, and techniques to make a fantastic impression upon those who count in your life, personal life and career. So we'll be touching on that. So make sure you join us and make sure you get a copy of Dr. Mike's book. And thank you, Dr. Mike. Thank you for sharing these important secrets of success habits made easy. And we will talk about vision and how it's important to really get a key where you want to go, but also to learn about success isn't just by luck. It's about working consistently, being persistent when obstacles pop up in your way, and having a good work ethic. So there you go. That's the truth to all the listeners today.
Plug away. I gave you some success principles. These are success habits made easy. I hope you start today. Don't put it off. Don't say, well, I'll start tomorrow. I'll start the day after that. I'll start next weekend. Start today.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Mike. We'll see you next time.
Great. Look forward to seeing you and helping all your audience members.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. The links to Dr. Mercer's website page and book will all be in the show notes. So give that a look at, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. Positively, Dr. Mary.